One company started with a single engineer and a problem. The other started as a weapons factory serving a king. One spent decades obsessed with making chainsaws better. The other spent centuries building completely different machines before ever touching a tree. Today, these two companies build some of the most respected chainsaws on Earth. Yet after more than 60 years of competition, they still refuse to build them the same way. And that's because this isn't really a story about chainsaws. It's a story about two completely different philosophies of engineering. One believes perfection comes from solving the same problem for a century. The other believes innovation comes from bringing ideas from different industries. Both became giants, both built loyal followings. But they never agreed on what a chainsaw should be. And once you understand why, you'll never look at a Stihl or Husqvarna the same way again. By the end of this video, you'll understand why a decision made over 300 years ago still affects the chainsaw you can buy today. You'll see how one company became the world's best-selling chainsaw brand, how the other transformed forestry through innovation, and why the battle between them is now moving to an entirely new battlefield. Most rivalries begin when two companies enter the same market. This one didn't. It began centuries apart. In 1689, a weapons factory opened beside waterfalls in Sweden. Its purpose was simple: produce muskets for the Swedish crown. The company would later become Husqvarna. For nearly 3 centuries, chainsaws didn't exist in its world. The factory built weapons, then bicycles, then sewing machines, then motorcycles, then lawn equipment. It was constantly changing, constantly adapting, constantly learning new ways to manufacture products. Meanwhile, a completely different story was unfolding in Germany. In 1926, an engineer named Andreas Stihl looked at the logging industry and saw a problem. Trees were cut by hand. Logs were dragged to sawmills. The work was slow, exhausting, dangerous. Stihl believed something radical. The saw should go to the tree, not the tree to the saw. So he built a machine to solve that problem. That machine became one of the world's first portable chainsaws. It weighed nearly 48 kilograms. 2 people were required just to operate it. But the idea was revolutionary. And Stihl would spend the next 3 decades chasing one goal: making chainsaws better. One company spent centuries building many things. The other spent decades building almost nothing except chainsaws. That difference would shape everything that followed. By the 1950s, Stihl had already spent decades refining chainsaws. Every new model removed weight, added power, improved usability. The company wasn't distracted by other industries. Every resource focused on one problem: how do you make forestry work easier? Then came a breakthrough. In 1959, Stihl introduced the Contra. For the first time, a powerful gasoline chainsaw could be comfortably operated by a single person. The impact was enormous. Forestry productivity increased dramatically. Work that previously required multiple workers became significantly easier. The company had finally achieved what Andreas Stihl had been chasing since 1926. But something interesting happened that same year. A completely different company entered the chainsaw business. That company was Husqvarna. And it approached the challenge from a completely different direction. Unlike Stihl, Husqvarna wasn't carrying decades of chainsaw assumptions. Its engineers came from motorcycle manufacturing, engine design, industrial production. They looked at chainsaws differently, and that fresh perspective immediately produced results. Their first chainsaw focused heavily on reducing noise, something competitors had largely ignored. It wasn't necessarily more powerful, but it solved a problem others weren't thinking about, and that would become a pattern, again and again. Whenever Stihl attacked a problem from deep specialization, Husqvarna attacked it from cross-industry experience. Neither approach was wrong, they were simply different. Most people compare chainsaws by horsepower, or weight, or cutting speed. But the real difference starts much deeper. It starts with how each company thinks. Stihl remains a family-owned company. That matters more than it might seem. A family-owned business can pursue long-term engineering projects without worrying about quarterly earnings reports. It can spend years developing technologies that may not generate immediate returns. It answers primarily to itself. Husqvarna took a different path. Today, Husqvarna operates as a publicly traded company. It must balance engineering ambitions with shareholder expectations. That doesn't make one better. It simply changes how decisions get made. And nowhere is that difference more visible than in how the two companies sell their products. Stihl refuses to sell through most big box retailers. Instead, it relies on authorized dealers. Dealers who can service products, provide support, and maintain relationships with customers. Husqvarna chose accessibility. Its products appear in large retail chains, independent dealers, online channels, and multiple distribution networks. One company prioritizes controlled service. The other prioritizes market reach. Both strategies work, but they reveal two completely different ways of thinking. The clearest expression of any engineering philosophy is the engine, because the engine reveals what a company values. Stihl developed its two-mix engine technology. The goal was efficiency, strong low-end torque, reduced emissions, controlled power delivery. The result is a chainsaw that many users describe as powerful and confident under heavy loads. Husqvarna responded with X-Torque technology. Its focus was broader power delivery, improved fuel efficiency, responsive performance across different engine speeds. Instead of emphasizing low-end pulling power, Husqvarna emphasized flexibility, quick response, smooth operation. Again, neither company was wrong. They simply optimized for different experiences. And then came one of the biggest technological moments in chainsaw history. In 2019, Stihl introduced something the industry had never seen before: the MS500i, the first production chainsaw featuring electronically controlled fuel injection. For decades, chainsaws relied on carburetors. Carburetors work, but they require compromises. Changing temperatures affect performance. Altitude affects performance. Air quality affects performance. Fuel quality affects performance. Electronic fuel injection changed that equation. Sensors constantly monitored operating conditions. The system automatically adjusted fuel delivery. No manual tuning, no guesswork. Just optimized performance. It was a major technological leap, and it demonstrated something important. Stihl was still willing to make massive long-term engineering investments, even when those investments required years of development. But Husqvarna didn't stand still. Instead of removing the carburetor entirely, it developed Auto-Tune, a system that automatically adjusted engine performance based on changing conditions. The destination was similar, the route was different. Once again, two companies, two philosophies, same problem, different solutions. Technology matters, but forestry workers care about something else: their bodies. Long hours with a chainsaw create fatigue, vibration, stress, wear, and this is where Husqvarna built one of its strongest reputations. For decades, the company invested heavily in anti-vibration systems, reducing strain on hands, reducing fatigue, improving comfort during long workdays. Many users notice the difference, especially during extended cutting sessions. Stihl approached the problem differently. Its focus often centered around control, grip, stability, confidence under heavy cutting conditions. The result? Two excellent machines optimized for different priorities, one often emphasizing endurance, the other emphasizing authority and control. And that's why debates between loyal users never seem to end. Because both sides are experiencing real advantages, they're simply measuring success differently. For decades, the chainsaw war revolved around gasoline engines. That era is changing. Today, the biggest battle isn't horsepower, it's batteries. Professional users increasingly need quieter equipment. Cities want reduced emissions. Regulations continue evolving. Battery technology keeps improving. Both companies understand what is coming. Both are investing heavily. Both know the next generation of forestry equipment may look very different from today's machines. The question is no longer who builds the better gas chainsaw. The question is who builds the future. And for the first time in decades, the answer remains uncertain. One company began with a single engineer trying to solve a forestry problem. The other began as a weapons factory serving a king. One became obsessed with chainsaws. The other learned from centuries of building everything else. Today, both build world-class equipment. Both have loyal customers. Both continue pushing technology forward, but they never agreed on what a chainsaw should be. Stihl believes excellence comes from specialization. Husqvarna believes excellence comes from adaptation. That's why their machines feel different. That's why their customers argue endlessly. And that's why this rivalry has lasted for generations. Not because one side is right, but because both sides found a different path to success. If you found this story interesting, the rivalry between Caterpillar and Komatsu follows a remarkably similar pattern. Two industrial giants, two philosophies, one global battle, and that story is even bigger. Subscribe for more stories.